Okay, biology students. So today we are looking at the organization of the nervous system. We already learned that the nervous system is divided into two parts: the central nervous system, which contains the brain and the spinal cord, and the peripheral nervous system, which contains the ganglions and the nerves. Ganglions are a collection of neuron cell bodies that are located outside of the central nervous system. Ganglia can be of sensory or autonomic nature, and they are found in the head and the neck, as well as in the trunk, near the thoracic and abdominal organs. Nerves, however, are organs made out of multiple nerve fibers that are bundled together by connective tissue sheaths. We learned about the nerve structure in the previous lecture. So now let's take a look at the organization of the nervous system. So we start with receptors. We have sensory receptors that locate any type of, or that identify any type of a sensory action. This can be sight or smell. This can also be a stretching of your stomach. So there are different types of sensory receptors. Either the typical 6 types of senses. Ones that we know are the special senses. So special senses would be vision, like seeing something, which is processed by the eyes; hearing, which is processed by the ears; gustation, the taste, it's processed by tongue and mouth; and olfaction, which is the smell, which is processed in the nasal cavity; then touch, but also equilibrium, which is the sense of balance, which is processed by the semicircular canal and the vestibular complex. So these are the special sense receptors. Then we also have the visceral sense receptors. And visceral sense receptors are considered more like a general sense or a somatosensation, which is in opposition to the special senses that we just covered. Somatosensation is the group of sensory modalities that are associated more with touch, proprioception, that includes something like pressure, vibration, light touch, tickle, itch, temperature, pain. Proprioception. Proprioception means that we normally are aware where the limbs of our body are located. So you always know if your arm is kind of hanging down your side or if you're lifting your arm up. And these are special sensory receptors that are not associated with a specialized organ, but they spread through the whole body in a variety of organs. There are other somatosensory receptors that are located in the skin, but we also find them in muscles, tendons, joints, capsules, and in the wall of visceral organs. So once a stimulus is received, this stimulus then travels through the peripheral nervous system. And the division it traveled through, it's called the sensory division or the afferent division. So you see a signal coming from a sensor and then passing through the sensory division towards the central nervous system, meaning the spine and the brain. So from the peripheral nervous system, the PNS, the signal then goes towards the central nervous system. The sensory input is then processed and integrated by various brain regions depending on the type of stimulus received. This integration combines sensory data with emotional states, memories, and learned experience. For instance, when you see a soccer ball coming towards you, your brain integrates the visual data with prior knowledge of how to kick a ball and possibly your emotional state about the game's outcome. Following this integration, the brain decides on an appropriate motor response. So this is where the efferent motor division comes in. In the efferent division, the decision is carried out through 2 primary pathways: the somatic division, or the somatic pathway, and the autonomic nervous systems. The somatic nervous system, the SNS, controls voluntary movements, primarily through the contraction of skeletal muscle. A good way to memorize that is that the beginning letter of the somatic division and skeletal muscle is the same. This pathway from the somatic division is often under conscious control but it can also involve reflex actions like quickly withdrawing your hand from a hot stove or the patellar reflex. On the other hand, the autonomic division controls smooth muscles, cardiac muscles, and glands, and thus the organs that we don't have a conscious control over, but which are essential for maintaining homeostasis. The ANS itself splits into two opposing divisions, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic systems. These divisions act like a balance, working together to ensure that the body responds appropriately to the demands of the environment. The sympathetic division is often called the fight or flight system. It is activated during stressful situations, preparing the body for action. It accelerates the heart rate, dilates pupils, and redistributes blood flow to skeletal muscle, which is essential for a quick and forceful action. In contrast, the parasympathetic division is considered the rest and digest system. It conserves energy and maintains normal body functions. After a stressful event, the parasympathetic division helps bring the body back to the state of calm, slowing down the heart rate, promoting digestion, and allowing restorative processes. Together, these divisions ensure that we are constantly adapting to our environment, whether we are faced with a threat or simply resting and digesting food. Let's define a few of the terms that we used. Afferent comes from the Latin word adferre, so meaning carrying towards or conducting something inwards or towards something. And for nerves, this is usually the central nervous system. For blood vessels, it would be towards the organ that is supplied with blood. Then efferent comes from the Latin word for exferre, meaning carrying away. So that is the opposite to the afferent system. And then the term soma comes from the Greek word soma, which means body, and autonomic is self-governing. So the autonomic nervous system is the self-governing system.